It's already, they called in. We have their name and number. We text it to them. We don't save it. Totally compliant.
And it's you texting, not us texting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Buckle up. It's the Insurance Dudes podcast.
What kind of things do you do in your agency for training? How often do you meet?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked about that. We're kind of obsessed with training. We meet every Tuesday morning from 8:30 to 9:30, and we use Team by the Minute when we do our training meetings. In fact, we recently had a team planning conference up in the mountains, and we took a few days off, and again used Team by the Minute to cover the office while we were out. And but in those weekly meetings where we do things like we'll go over the Life Happens videos, those ones that have those 3-4 minute clips of an emotional story. We talk about questions and the art of asking good questions. We'll read a good book. We talk about the competitive advantages of our products. We talk about how to story sell and how to tell those stories that I talked about earlier with attention to detail and with emotion. We talk about notes that I get from my various study groups and recent conference notes. We'll go over that stuff. So training is huge. I'm a huge believer in training because, trained people outperform untrained people. That's the way it is. I mean, 100%. Michael Jordan, I love this one. Michael Jordan in 1992 and 93, his season average was about 33 points a game. And then he went to play baseball for a year, and then he came back. And the season after he came back, his average dropped to 26.9 points. Okay. This is the GOAT of basketball, and Tom Brady, the GOAT of football. In 2007, he had a 16-0 record, right? He had 50 touchdowns and 8 picks. Then he has the ACL injury, right? And then in 2009, when he comes back, his record is 10-6. And he had 28 touchdowns with 13 picks, which is still good, but not Tom Brady numbers. And so even the GOATs require training. When we think that we've learned it all, that's wrong. We have. Yeah. We got to keep training. And, our team is starving for this stuff. I've made the mistake of thinking, I go to all these meetings and I know all the, know what I need to know. But, I made the mistake of not being consistent with my training. So I've really tried to turn that around the last couple of years or so and spent a lot of time training and role playing and taking that seriously.
Do you do call recordings? And playback calls, grade the calls?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. They love that.
Two misconceptions I think people have with this is, one is when I first got into the agency, I thought that it takes away time from selling. Well, if we're training an hour a day, it's taking away time from selling. But then you start thinking about how much time you spent selling poorly. Right. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like that's an incredible. Now you're wasting not only, money on staff that can't perform as good, but then you're also, if you're buying leads, you're wasting money on that. You're wasting opportunity costs. And then my other thing is this, and I tell our staff this, and I tell the agents that it's incredible that why in insurance are we one of the only industries that don't practice things, right? Like your golfer practices his swing, right? Your baseball player practices swing, but we tend to do a different quote every time. Like we're only quoting so many different things, right? And I said, it's the equivalent of going up to the plate and just swinging the bat around in every direction, different every time. It's like, you can't get better if you're doing something different every time. Mm-hmm. You got to have a process.
Yep. And the other thing we try to teach them is to listen. I've had team members that are talkaholics and they're just not effective. We teach them, you got 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. You're going to connect better if you really listen. And one of the things on that we teach is it's more important to be interested than to be interesting.
I like that.
Yeah, they want to talk about themselves, right?
Yeah.
The person who you're talking to is going to be a multitude happier with you if they get to talk about themselves.
Yeah. The other thing we teach them is keep it simple. All right. Let's not make this complicated. It's just insurance. And so, keeping it simple is real. Like, for example, when it comes to, these fancy calculators on what's the right amount of life insurance. Well, we'll talk to them about, hey, $1 million of life insurance is going to produce about $4,000 a month of interest income. Okay. So with that as your rule of thumb, how much is 500,000? Well, that's 2,000 a month. How much is 250,000? Well, that's 1,000 a month, right? How much is 2 million going to produce? So that's 8,000 a month, right? Just keep it simple. So many people, it's like if you had a 4,000 square foot home burned down, would you want to replace it with 2,200 square feet? No, you want to replace it with the full amount. And so we talk to people about the right amount of coverage. The average wrongful death lawsuit from 9/11 was 23 times annual income. This is the government paying people 23 times annual income. Now, most carriers won't even write 23 times annual income, but what's the right amount? The most you can get.
Right.
And Einstein talks about simplicity a lot. He says a true genius makes the complex simple, right? And I love what Steve Jobs says about simplicity. He says 5 gigabytes means nothing. 1,000 songs means everything.
I like that. A true genius makes the complex simple.
I must be dumb. I make everything so complicated.
We're all guilty of it, Craig.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, why do we overthink it like that, though? We overthink it. Try to make it
show
better.
off how smart we are, right?
I guess.
It is funny when we do like a new project or something, or something even in the office. Starts off simple problem that needs to be solved. It gets all tangled up, and then we bring it back to the simple solution. There's all this craziness in between.
Do all this stuff in the middle with the Dr. Seuss tools.
Yeah. And now I'll admit, we don't do everything totally simple. Like, for example, we take it real serious when it comes to their liability needs. We'll start off, we'll do a review appointment, and we'll talk about, okay, has anyone ever gone over what is the right amount of liability with you? No. Okay. So let's talk about this. Cause I took this real serious. I contacted some of our company attorneys and I said, what's the formula for deciding if one of my clients kills someone in a car accident, what's at risk? And, how do you determine what is going to be paid out? What's it based on? Give me the formula. So I took that formula and I put it into a spreadsheet, made a fancy calculator out of it. And we call it our liability calculator. Sometimes we'll call it the asset review. It plugs in each little category, how much equity they have in the home, how much they have in their savings, how much they have in retirement, all these different categories. And then we also protect their income because, they can lose 25% of their income for up to 10 years. And then that judgment can be renewed for another 10 years. And so we'll go and we'll put that together. And that's kind of how we'll start our reviews. That's kind of the most important part of the review because most people have never had this done. Right. And if you take just a few minutes to go over that, we do it in 5 minutes. Right. We get all that stuff. We make a recommendation, and let's say that their liability calculator comes out to, 1.8. We say, hey, you're a good candidate for a $2 million umbrella, right? And we'll write the umbrella. And then when we do that, it makes it an easy transition into the other products because we, automatically when we do that, the calculator puts the money into 4 buckets: a tax-deferred bucket, a taxable bucket, a tax-friendly bucket, and a tax-free bucket. And, we talk to them about the different buckets and how they can maybe move some of their tax-friendly money to a tax-free bucket, explain to them how they can do that with some permanent life insurance or super Roth, whatever you want to call it, and it makes for a smooth transition.
I love that.
I know a lot of folks from the carrier who you may be affiliated with, and they're notoriously good at life insurance. And I'm curious how it's a magnitude better than many of the agents from the carrier who I may be affiliated with. I'm wondering if you share a little bit of your process, how you get to that, why it's such an important part, or why it's top of mind with you?
For me, I just have a passion for it. I mean, yeah, it just, for other agents, I think that when the company you work for puts an emphasis on it, then you're smart to take advantage of that emphasis. Yeah. They throw promos at it. They throw, but honestly, it's not about the pins, points, and the plaques, right? It is about protecting lives. And so whenever we write a life app here, we don't call it that. We said, hey, I just protected a life today. And it's a completely different mindset when you think of it as protecting someone's life. And I'm telling you, millennials, younger people like that stuff. It gives meaning to what they're doing, right? Because, and when we started doing that, they started taking pride in their work and feeling like they were kind of like the first responders of life insurance because we're protecting lives. And we are. That's what it's all about.
That is. Yep. It's funny how that does get convoluted over time. It's definitely something that us as agents need to remind our crew and even ourselves at times, don't bend on that. That's what you do. At the end of the day, of course you want the sale and we can get wrapped up in that part of it, but it's got to be about protection, which ends up becoming the best way to sell because people are shocked when you're like, yeah, you can't do that. Why is that person telling me that's not they're so passionate about that. Maybe I am, maybe I don't have the coverage. You know what I mean? It's most of our agents that sell a lot higher liability and such, and also book a lot of life appointments and everything else are the ones that are passionate about that. And they're pretty much, you can't that's something that's instilled in them. It's not they don't waver. Every policy, it's this is the right thing to do. And they're passionate about that. And they sell the most. It's incredible.
Yep. Another thing is I belong to about 6 different study groups. I'll tell you the names because you'll get a kick out of the names. The Dirty Dozen, the Flying Turkeys, the ACEs, Top 100, MDRT study group, and Travelers. And when you're in a study group, you got to be hitting the company numbers in order to feel good about going back to that study group. And I attribute a lot of my success to my mentors and my brothers and sisters in those study groups because they help you think big, right? They give you some of an accountability to not rest on your laurels just because you're, lifetime this or lifetime that, and you got all these awards. Who cares? What have you done lately? Keep it up.
Yeah, it's got to be part of the process, right? I found to Jason's point too, and to both of you, if we do it differently every time, if we take the Shaq free throw approach where it's just sort of, who knows what the hell's going on here, versus I like to use Kobe instead of Jordan, but
me too.
You get there earlier, you stay there later, you practice, but you practice to a process, to a form, to a way to do it, then it just becomes natural.
That's one of the things we talked about on one of our recent training meetings is the Mamba mentality. He took 2,500 shots a day. He had a work ethic that was second to none. He was up at 4 a.m. to work out even in the off season. He was the first in and the last out. He did tap dancing for better footwork. He brushed his teeth when he was a kid with his left hand so he could be more ambidextrous. It was fiercely competitive. So I think having that Mamba mentality is cool.
Right. And most people don't have that ingrained. You have to force yourself, right? You have to hold yourself accountable to that. There's the days where you don't feel like it and you've got to make yourself do it. I brought it up several times. We had a guest on. His name's Jamie Alderton. He's an English guy that does, workout stuff, but he lives in England. Yeah. So every morning he goes and jumps in the ocean in England.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, and he does it, and he says, "Do you think that I want to go jump in the effing ocean every morning?" And it's like, no, of course not. The last thing I want to do is jump in the ocean. But he sets himself up for success. He puts on his swimsuit and goes to sleep in that. So every night, there's no excuse, right? Now, I don't know where my swimsuit is. I don't know. So he sets himself up for that success. And I think that we definitely can come up with excuses. And if we can come up with excuses, then our staff most certainly will come up with excuses. So we have to lead by example and give those opportunities where we reinforce, that kind of Mamba mentality or the Jamie Alderton put in your swimsuit the night before type thing.
Yeah. And speaking of team, we need to I think it's important to show our team appreciation and do little things. Like every day when they leave, I'll tell them, I appreciate you. That doesn't cost me a penny, but it pays off in spades because they feel appreciated. We give them a 401k, we give them benefits, we give them an annual trip if they hit their numbers to Hawaii or a cruise or snow skiing. If they get a compliment by a policyholder, we give them a couple movie tickets. Can't go right now, but if a policyholder is out of line and they're being I'll support my team and I'll tell them, hey, you don't need to take that kind of abuse. You if they're cursing at you and yelling at you, you kindly exit yourself from that call. I care more about you and I don't want you to not like your job. I don't expect them to lie when it comes to screening the calls. If I'm not, tell them that I'm helping a client, but don't say I'm on another call if I'm not on another call. You don't have to lie for me. We do random bonusing, just here's a certificate for a massage or get your nails done or some cash. Random bonusing is huge, right? When they expect a bonus, they earned it. That's kind of a given, right? But when you do random bonusing, that is when they really fall in love with you.
Yeah, it is incredible. That is a really good point, because it is incredible when somebody expects something, and it could be a great bonus, right? It could be your monthly $1,000 bonus. But when you just, even $100 like little bonuses for things that they didn't expect, it's incredible how much it's appreciated.
Yep.
Little surprise attack, right? They're not expecting it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a double. That $100 is $1,000 when it's a surprise.
And it's also important that we love what we do. Like I have team members do all the parts of the job that I'm not good at. I don't know how to quote an auto or a fire policy. I have no clue, right? And I haven't for over 20 years, but I like to make relationships. I call myself the relationship rainmaker. I like to do review appointments with my multiple line clients. My review appointments that I do with single line clients, I have my team members do that so they can quote the auto without fire, the fire without auto. I like to do the team training meetings. I like to have team meetings and motivate them, get them excited, get them pumped up. That's what I like to do. So that's the part of the job that I do.
And I love that, because so many agents beat themselves up. Like so many agents that you talk or that we talk to that are smaller, they think like they got to do it all. I got to do it all. And it's like, you don't do the things that that you love to do. So that, to your point, the passion comes out, and then you love doing that, and get somebody to do the other stuff, because try to find the person that honestly is passionate at that. Like one of my service agents, she's an amazing agent, but she excels at service. You know what I mean? And it's like, put the salespeople that excel at that, and then they're all excited about what they do. It's a good energy.
And speaking of doing things that you're good at, we're humble here. We know that we're not good at everything. So we like to outsource, right? So we have a company called Client Focus that does our appointment setting. So they call all of our clients once a year, schedule an appointment. It makes it so I don't have to, harp on my team, get this appointment. They'll still set some appointments, but Client Focus does the most of them. And they are fantastic. In fact, right now they're setting, phone and video appointments. When things are back to normal, it's usually a face-to-face appointment. We talked about Team by the Minute. We outsource for that. We have tracking software like Racing Snail and Today App Pro, and use training programs like Insurance Training Institute, Foster Cannon, speed training. We have, our late pay calls outsourced to a vendor that does that for us. For our HR service, we have an attorney on call for that. For our time cards, we have ClockSpot. For, we have someone that does our bookkeeping. I'm a big believer in outsourcing because you save money. When you use companies like Team by the Minute and you're only charged by the minute. I mean, did you know that your team is only at their peak efficiency about 30% of the day, right? But you got to pay them for 100% of the day. So with Team by the Minute, you're not paying them. You're paying them by the minute, right?
Wouldn't
that be cool if we could do that with our team, where we only paid them by the minute at their peak efficiency? So
I'm definitely only at peak efficiency about 10% of the day. If that.
Truth. No, it's true though.
Let's just, before we get into the last question, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into the Team by the Minute. How does that work? So you just flip them over and you flip the phones over?
Okay, good question.
Yeah.
So there's two ways. We have some agents who use them as a receptionist. And what we found is about 70% of the people that call your office, they're just trying to make a payment. And so what we do is we'll text them a link or a phone number. We'll connect them with our company has a connection service that they can just make the payment there. So that they're not even having to pay for that, right? That's just connected right to the company. They make a payment, boom, done. So that's the receptionist method. The other method is the 4-ring method. And this is where you just keep it on all day long. And if your team's like trying to juggle too many lines, or they're in the middle of a sale and they don't want to put someone on hold, you have it pick up after 4 rings. And, you can have it on all day long. And if it only picks up for 1 minute, you're only charged for 1 minute, but you had your phones covered the whole stinking day. What about the day after Thanksgiving? What about holidays that, that your company's not closed on and you want to give your team?
Well, we're obviously open on those days.
and we got a new service. This is hot off the press. This is big. Okay. We got a new feature that we've added to the service called the review service. I love this one. Mm-hmm. So, how there's these review vendors that are out there. I don't know if I can mention their names, but there's a bunch of them. You pay $200, $250, $300 a month, and they have these little templates that you text or email to your clients.
Yes.
And hopefully you get a Google, a Facebook, or a Yelp review, right? Well,
right.
What we're doing with Team by the Minute is we're asking for you, right? And we're sending the text and the email for you. Right.
That is awesome.
And it's an added service. We include it for free for a little while for our new clients. And it's a brand new service that we're just starting, but it takes away having to ask your team to do one more thing, right? Do you like asking your team to do one more thing? No,
they don't like being asked to do one more thing.
Yeah. So, and it's totally compliant because you're not giving an outside vendor the name and number. Right. It's already, they called in. We have their name and number. We text it to them. We don't save it. Totally compliant.
And it's you texting, not us texting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yep. And so it's sweet because you're building your reviews. You're going to, instead of having a couple dozen reviews, you're going to have hundreds of reviews. And it's going to, and you don't have to, even with these other companies that you're paying $200-$300 a month, your team's still got to ask. Right.
Right.
And if they don't ask, it ain't, you're not getting your $200 or $300 worth. With ours, I don't remember exactly. I think we're charging like $89 a month for that extra service, but so it's a lot less expensive and we're doing it for you.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. So
we're excited.
Let's say the world was ending tomorrow and there was
for a couple of weeks.
Or for a couple of weeks. And there was one piece of advice that you would give another agent that was starting up in this new world. What would be the number one piece of advice you give to anybody coming into the industry or new agent or
somebody crazy?
Great question. Great. For new agents, hey, I think it's really important to love what you do. Do the parts of the job that you like. It's not, Jason, Craig, you guys, you're good at different things. I'm sure you're not clones of each other, right? You do your strengths. And I think it's important to learn how to tell good stories. I think it's important to learn how to sprinkle in good questions. Become expert in asking questions. It's not about blurting out how much you know and trying to, sell. It's asking good questions, being a good listener and being skilled at that kind of stuff.
Love it. And then teambytheminute.com, right?
Yep, teambytheminute.com. You can Google them and, we'll set you up with that discount, that 5% discount, Insurance Dudes 5. We'll get you the 5%.
Case doesn't matter. Uppercase, lowercase. No,
all lowercase. Okay. All one word, Insurance Dudes 5.
Awesome.
InsuranceDudes5.com or as the promo for the website. So we will definitely put that in the show notes.
Yep.
Down below.
Yeah.
And
that'll show up when you check out. It'll be in your cart, be a little discount code. Fill that in, get 5% off for all your listeners. Good until the end of April.
Ooh.
Love it.
Let's do it. All right.
Love
perfect.
It. Kirk, thank you so much for investing some time with us and getting some great messages out to all the insurance dudes and dudettes out there.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for having me. You guys are great.
All right. Thanks, Kirk.
I love your podcast, by the way. I listen to them, and man, I really appreciate you guys. You're doing a great service. We need you guys.
Oh, thanks. Man, when we started this thing, man, it was all about just talking to people, learning from people like you. So, I mean, it's honestly helped us so much. So thank you
great job.
To everybody else that's been on.
Cool.
Hey, Jason.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
That was another awesome episode, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people want to get a little bit more action and learn how to write 100,000 in premium off of even the worst internet leads, where could they go?
They can go to live.teledudes.com.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. Are we going to be there?
Yes. It's a weekly call that we're doing right now it's live, and it will show you the process. The entire process is super awesome.
I love it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Sign up right now, live.teledudes.com.
Live.teledudes.com. That's live.teledudes.com.
Hey, Craig, there's a new community that we are starting that I cannot wait to tell everybody about. It is our live texting community where you and I are going to answer people's questions and give them free content, right?
Are you kidding me? We get to talk to them?
Yeah, which is awesome, but they have to opt in. They have to text us at 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
Nice.
Craig, are you going to respond to these texts?
I'm going to respond to them for sure. Live.
I'm into it too. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be our new texting community where we're going to get back to everybody that we can and drop some crazy content, free content, and free the calculator that you just came up with. That's right. The calling calculator, sales material. I mean, everything for insurance agents. This is it. It's the best texting community out there for insurance agents.
Well, what the heck is that number again? I can't remember it.
It's 520-214-2219. That's 520-214-2219.
I love it. I'm going to text it right now.
520-214-2219.
All right. I'll see you later, Mr. Jason.
Bye, Mr. Craig.
Wait, do they even listen to this on the radio anymore?
I love it. I love it.
Nice.
All right.